Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad?
It's been busy and it's been good.
Yeah, well, how was your weeks, I guess I should ask.
They've been busy and they've been good.
Yeah. So For some people wondering about why we didn't record last week, it had a lot to do with me and not with Chad. Chad had things he wanted to bring on the program, and I took a volunteer position with the community chaplain response team, and we had the car show, so that was a lot of work. That takes a lot of hands. I mean, I'm just going to take the opportunity to say thank you, City of Newton. Thank you, Parks Department. Thank you, everybody that participated and volunteered to make that go. I mean, that is I never knew how many hands it takes to make that happen, and how fortunate we are for everybody that wants to participate in that, down to the people that bring their cars or motorcycles or trucks. It's an unbelievable event, man. It really is. And my role in it is as the volunteer position as the public relations specialist for them, has a lot to do with their digital platform and helping out with their website and their social media presence and everything. And I got to say, that's it was a lot. It really was a lot. And it was something that spanned over Friday night, all day Saturday. And even though you think that's just a little bit of time, the background work on that is astronomically.
It's huge.
I mean, it's huge. So another person I'd like to send a shout out to is LA, who's the director of the community chaplain response team. I mean, Ron, there's so many people. I would not want to try to get everybody included because I would miss some people. And so I would just want to say, as a group, as a whole, man, the car show went off without a hitch. There was some weather question there, and I'm sure that probably did have some little bit to do with maybe even our turnout and stuff. But still, I mean, it was a great turnout, great people. The whole thing was awesome, and to say that that's not one of the gems of what our community has to offer would be a misstep, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, and most communities are lucky to have one big thing during the year, right?
Yeah.
And when I say big thing, we're talking that attendance to said event can be upwards of half your population or more. Yeah. And we as a community have like 3 or 4 of those.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we should be real proud. And the car show has grown like mad. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the weather this year, and yeah, that was a factor. And that it didn't feel like there were quite as many cars this year. Yeah. Well, guess what? That's why. Yeah. And by the way, some of us have been around this thing in one way or another since its inception. This was the 20th that was actually hosted. Yeah. Okay.
20 years.
Well, it's like, And the very first one, numero uno, I remember that there were 80 cars there. 80. That's a lot.
Well, they had like 230 or over 200,
right?
Well over 200.
And it's grown to the point where the goal is usually between 300 and 325. I don't think they hit the 300 this year. No. I don't know for sure.
No, not quite.
But you know what? That is an absolutely spectacular event. And then the cruise night, and I don't remember when they added that in. Yeah. The cruise night was freaking awesome as well.
Yes, it was.
I'll be straight. My sons talked me into taking 2-3 laps in the minivan after all the classics had done their thing. Yeah. And it was fun, and it was enjoyable, and everybody was gathered down there at Midway. Well, not everybody, but lots of folks were gathered down at Midway, and that felt like a mini car show down there.
Yeah.
And
so, shout out to Midway.
The car show has turned into a multi-day, really cool event. Yeah.
And something I got to say about being on the front lines of that, we did something a little bit different where something that I suggested is that everybody that gets an award, we just funnel them off, get a portrait picture of them holding it was a license plate in this event that said what they won and stuff. And I just got to say, there's a community there, Chad. I mean,
there is.
And I left the car show, and I was exhausted, right? But on an absolute community feel good event. I mean, if there is so much camaraderie there is so much going on with, and there's just a lot of love there. I mean, I just got to say it. Love for people for what they do, love for one another, camaraderie amongst one another, and those that put in all the hard work and effort. The best in show. I mean, it was moving to me. I mean, it was emotionally moving to me. And I thought, this right here is what my community really is about.
You bet.
It is absolutely 100%. This is a gem. This is the best of our community. This is something that everybody gets to enjoy. And all it was give, 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 give.
Well, and straight up, events like this one usually fall off, struggle, or even die after leadership changes.
Yeah.
Mike and Davey founded this thing some 20 years ago, and they ran it for 15.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where they just couldn't do it on their own anymore, and they threw their hands up. That's when the car club took it over.
Yeah.
And the car club, honestly, it didn't miss a beat. It really didn't. And then the car club was kind of like, we're at that point. The way we want to enjoy the car show is we just want to show up on Saturday morning and put our cars on Main Street.
Yeah.
More power to you, dudes.
Yeah.
Right? And now the CCRT has taken it. And the car show has endured each of these leadership changes.
Yes, it has.
And it is endured because there's been a community built among the folks who bring their stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, it's a big deal, and it's super cool. I hope the CCRT will stick with it for a while. And one of the reasons that I want them to keep it for a while is there's also a tendency for groups when they take something like this over to just run it for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And that means taking all the money from themselves.
Yeah, no.
But the CCRT was pretty brash and pretty upfront and saying, no, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not going to do this unless we can give money to some other people.
Yes.
And so kudos to those guys. That's a big step because, they can use that money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They can, but they're just like, hey, we're just going to share it.
And I'm sure.
And I just, from every angle, that was the CCRT taking this on was really good. And the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
We had a rainy day and we still had full streets full of cars.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say weather permitting on things. I was, I'm a social media guy, right? That's where I pull a lot of my information from, mostly, or off my phone, I guess you could say. It's like I read the Kansan on my phone. I'm a digital guy in a digital world, that's my age group or whatever. But, I remember the open streets.
Yep.
That was the first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was more going on there than what I even thought was going to be going on there, to be quite honest. And I only saw like a couple naysayers. It seems like social media is always the place somebody will just warrantlessly, regardless of who they are or how they feel, will have something negative to say.
The trolls and the keyboard warriors.
Yeah, obviously. And so then it was, the first thing that was said was, it was poorly attended. Well, I don't really think it was that poorly attended, to be quite honest.
Let me offer you a counterpoint on that one. The estimate was somewhere around 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my counterpoint. That's 1,000 people who on a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again. That's 1,000 people who on a Sunday afternoon decided to go take a walk along Oak Street.
Yeah.
So, my counterpoint on this idea that it was poorly attended is that it occurred at a time that is not a real popular time.
Yeah.
And it occurred in a location, by design, by the way, that wasn't Main Street.
Yeah.
So, when the organizers, who are the people I talked to, were over the moon excited about what they were seeing that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't at me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and I mean, first time for everything's hard. People don't know what to expect. And then I was just thinking what got me from going from the car show and the potential for it to be bigger, but the weather was kind of questionable. If I remember correctly, the weather was kind of questionable on that day as well.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep. And it cleared out, and it was a beautiful day in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Two of my three kids were with their youth group on Sunday afternoon. I picked them up, and there was maybe 15 minutes left, but they wanted to make sure to drive by to see what was going on, and they were like, "Oh, that would have been fun."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was fun, but you had other things because it was a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
You had church stuff because it was a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So Open Streets was a good event. I don't know if it's the type of thing that can or ever will challenge things like the Taste of Newton or the car show, but it's definitely something that's worth your time and energy to go and hang out at.
Well, and I would say it's quite possible. I mean, I don't think it would be a fair comparison to try to compare the Open Streets to the car show or Taste of Newton.
Well,
and the
that's
reason
just
why
it.
it has a lot to do with Open Streets is pretty much hyper-focused on the Newton community. So if you're talking about just the Newton community, 1,000 people getting out on a Sunday afternoon with the potential for poor weather, and in the morning it was kind of chilly and everything. I just want to say that, the Taste of Newton, the car show, those are things that bring people from everywhere. And I know when I was going around taking pictures and stuff and talking to people and just seeing what they thought about the car show and whatnot, not to go back to the car show, but there's a lot of people that come here from other places just to be able to see or participate in it.
They do.
Speaking of things that happen locally and whatnot, and local community being able to support local events, I just want to talk about some of the upcoming things that are happening. One in particular are the Rebels games. Okay,
Yep.
That season is getting awful close. I know they just put out something here recently that said they were looking for some volunteers. And as I was saying with the car show and even the Open Streets, this is largely a volunteer-based situation. I know right now they're still looking for a gate attendant. They're still looking for a public address announcer. So that's not for everybody. That might be a Chad thing. I don't know.
Well, Chad's going to be out of state for at least a little bit of that season. So I've just not committed. And then I've got, my own kids have got all kinds of summer activities that I'm going to be involved with, which is, all of that is the reason that I stepped away from the Rebels just a few years ago, because my own sons were playing summer ball. Now we're doing things like summer cross country camps and yada, 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 yada.
Busy dad.
And it's just like, dude, I need to take care of my kids. Yes. And I love the Rebels. I love those guys who sign on the bottom line to come play.
Yeah.
I've through the years, I've loved those times when, guys like Enzo Bonventre would come by my house and we'd have a barbecue, and I'd meet his then girlfriend and now fiance. And I'd meet his dad. I loved that. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah.
But all due respects to guys like Enzo, I really need to take care of my own kids.
Yeah. Well, you're at a stage in your life when that's the case. See, when we talk about volunteering and stuff, it's there's a time and a place.
Right.
If you have a family and you have kids and stuff, by all means, that's your priority.
Yep.
Be the people that take your kids to the game.
Bingo. Because there's more than one way to support the effort. Yeah. And that way right there, I want to drill down on that, because it was while I was really involved. I had a night where, I was doing like internet radio broadcasts and whatever else, play by play and the whole 9 yards. And I had a night where somebody said, "Hey, we got this guy from, I think that he was from Wichita State or something like that, who wants to get into this, and he was wondering if he could do a couple of games." Like, yeah, go. Sure, no problem.
By all means.
Let him do it.
Yeah.
And so I had a night off, and I just sat in the stands. And I sat in the stands talking to someone else that's kind of involved in our community. And I will never forget him looking at me and saying, there was a time in this town that these stands would be full. and it didn't matter who was on the diamond.
Yeah.
This place would just be full. I don't know where that went. And that is one of the biggest struggles that the Newton Rebels have had, is that people, I don't know if they've just forgotten that they enjoy baseball.
Yeah.
Or what.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone through this with my own father, right? It's like, why are you spending $28 on tickets, driving to Wichita, spending $6 and $7 for a beer or a hot dog, when all you got to do to see some high level baseball is drive across town?
Yep.
Don't get it.
Yeah.
Do not get it.
Yeah.
And it was right around pandemic. I don't know if it was during or immediately after, when things started going back to quote normal. Dad started going to some of those games, and he wasn't driving down to Wichita. And I think construction had something to do with it too, because, you know, we have the quote unquote new Riverfront Stadium.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is very nice.
Yes, it is very nice.
And so he started going to some of those games, and I felt really happy during that time. And Dad made a comment that he felt like he had discovered something. And I was like, dude, I've been telling you this for years. Right? So, you know, they've dipped their toe in the pool with different things to try and get people out to the diamond.
Yeah.
I mean, they really have. And I think, if I'm remembering seeing it right, that they're going to have I think they contracted with a group out of Wichita, but they're going to have a bar truck show up for some games this year.
Okay. Which is something different than before.
That's something different.
That was one thing that I know had been mentioned at the city before. I had watched them come and present to the city and said some of the things that are different at other locations is that you can go have a beer while you're there. You know, I don't think it's anything that's going to be getting out of control or anything.
Well, it's not, and you can't. And the bottom line is that for, you know, probably a decade and a half, one of the questions they keep asking themselves is why is it Hutch seems to draw so much? What is it they do that draws their people, right?
Yeah.
And you know, these conversations that are had, it's things like, you know, I'll sit in the corner and be like, well, you know, maybe we should try and get Evan Thomas, who played his high school ball at Newton and then went on to play collegiately at Pitt State. You know, he's a quality ball player and he's from Newton. Let's try and get him and make him the face of the organization. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
Then it was, you know, let's go get this Clausen kid who's pitching or he's catching up at Washburn, and let's try and make him a face of the organization.
Yeah.
You know, the problem that came from those, not necessarily all of them, but the problem that comes from doing that is you're bringing these guys in, but they're in a competitive situation. They got to earn their way onto the field.
Yeah.
The coach isn't going to stick them on the field just because they got a 67114 zip code.
Good call.
Right?
Good call.
We got to compete. Our goal is to get to the World Series.
Yes.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay? We have two goals. The organization has two goals. One, provide a place for college baseball players to play in the summer, hone their skills in a wood bat league. That's goal number one. Goal number two, get to the World Series.
Yep. Yep.
And so, you know,
I hate to say this.
There for a while, the Rebs had this reputation of trying to bring local kids in and then sitting them on the bench. Well, guys,
that's
I mean,
not going to get you.
I hate to tell some hard truth, but when we're bringing somebody in that graduated from high school a year ago, and he's going to be competing for his spot with guys who've been playing college ball, and in some cases higher level college ball than you are, for several years.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's not a fair fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just not a fair fight.
Yeah. You get somebody,
and so you're going to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
Okay. And just like any other sports team, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
So put your time in.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to put your time in, right? You come here after your freshman year at college, or your sophomore year at college, or maybe even your junior year at college. And maybe you haven't been playing at Washburn. Maybe you have been playing at Tabor, or maybe you've been playing at Heston. I mean, these are not the levels of play that we're dealing, not every guy that's coming in here is playing at those levels. Okay. And the last couple of years, they've been recruiting at an international level too.
Yeah.
Right. So we're bringing kids in from Japan.
Yep.
And they may not be playing super high level college ball, but that's just because none of the big boys ever looked at them.
And this is their opportunity too.
This is their opportunity to get looked at in the summer. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're bringing these guys in here, and they'll be here for a year, but they'll not get as much playing time as they want, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not just the local kids, right? I mean, you every year we have guys that are like that.
Yeah.
They come in here, they feel like they're not getting the playing time they want, and then they're signing on the dotted line to go play for somebody else.
Yeah, well, and if you get in here and you do well, then it's quite possible that somebody else wants to recruit you to be able to do something different. And I want to go back to something you said,
And
Chad.
I spent in the years of the Wichita Wingnuts, which was independent ball, I spent a lot of time talking to guys with wingnut shirts saying, no, that kid's going back to college. Stay away from my guy. He's going back to college. Okay? He knows that that's where his bread's going to be buttered 5 years from now.
Yep.
He's going back to college. And we want to have him back here next year. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, I don't want you talking to this guy and offering him $100 a week. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
That's going to, honestly, it's not going to help him. It's going to destroy him.
Yeah.
So I spent time doing that. That's what summer ball is for. It also gets you seen. When we have college coaches walking through the door and looking at kids, I don't talk to them. I just don't. If you can offer him a better deal and a better education than the one he's got right now, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So...
Well, and speaking of something you said, I kind of honed in on it. You said the face of the organization. And, I understand kind of that concept of having individuals that are local, that people come to see that are local and everything else. But really where we turn a corner on this is people just in the community decide that they want to go support their local team. They like baseball. Okay, you like to watch baseball. If that's your kids are involved in the Newton baseball programs or whatever the case may be, then parents know that they go there and they support them kids just like they would go and support their own kids. Then when they get there and they find, boy, this is a really, really nice game to watch. I mean, I was very surprised. There's guys that are throwing 90+ mile an hour fastballs out there. You know? And it's like,
we've
wow,
had guys.
I'm sitting here watching. Basically, I'm going to say it, basically a professional baseball game. The closest I can possibly reach to a professional baseball team, and it's very few dollars just to go and watch it. I mean, your whole family can basically go for the price of what it would cost for 1 or 2 tickets at another facility somewhere, like we had talked about in Wichita. So really, this just comes down to us in the community making the decision to go down here and support this organization. Tell people you know about it, and then become an avid supporter. Where's the Rebel merch that we're seeing around town? Where's the people that are absolutely supporting the Newton Rebels proudly and saying, hey, this is our team. We've got people that are coming here from all around, and they're there to be our team this year, and we want to be here to fill these stands to cheer on our kids, because that's what they are.
And by the way,
they're young men that come here to be part of our community and to play for our team. That's a two-way street. The least that we can do is show up and cheer them on, Chad.
Well, yeah, you can cheer them on. The other thing that you can do, and I would really encourage anybody who has kids like mine who love baseball. And I think my kids' playing days when it comes to baseball is over, but they love watching baseball. If you got an extra bedroom, there's a Rebel player that would very much like to sleep in it this summer.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of ways to support this team. One of the and I hate to be so negative about everything, but one of the things that really drives me nuts or drove me nuts about this social media post is seeking the volunteers. You know, there are organizations out there that their number one fundraiser of the year is auctioning off the chance to be the PA announcer. And Newton is sitting here just begging somebody to come do it.
Yeah.
So there's organizations out there that not only are they not paying their PA announcer, the PA announcer is paying the organization for the chance to do it, to live out the dream to be the guy behind the microphone.
Yeah, just for 1 year or one game even. Maybe.
Even just one game.
Yeah.
There was a team in the Northwoods League probably about 5 years ago. They popped $3,300 for one game. And that $3,300, what that guy paid to do was to go in and do this. Now batting, first baseman, Lance Gormley.
Yeah.
He paid $3,300 to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it comes back to community support. I mean, everybody knows me as a pro Newton, pro Harvey County guy. I take it back to the fact that when I went to college, if you said Lance Gormley and they said who, and you told them it's Mr. Newton, Harvey County, they'd know who you were talking about, because everything I did when it came to my education was hyper focus on city issues, county issues. Didn't really endeavor into school board stuff, but just specifically anything that I could study about my own community, that's what I did over and over and over and over. And I mean over again. And it was in the hopes that I would be able to apply that knowledge to my education first, and then be able to bring it back home to help my community if need be. I mean, I don't know if you remember when I did you had to have remembered because it was published in the Kansan, but when I did the breakdown on the utility bill.
Right.
You know, that took, and I'm talking hours upon hours upon hours of research. Heck, it was a capstone project, for crying out loud. Just so that way I could help educate and inform people as to where we were, however you felt about it, right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, and speaking of water, and I know we don't cover a lot of county stuff right now for obvious reasons, but for those that don't know, out at West Park, they've made the decision to have a monitoring well out there. Explain some of that, Chad, because I know we were there at the same time. But
yeah, this is a 50-year decision that got made. And it's the Kansas Geological Society that came forward and asked if they could put a monitoring well in West Park. Now, straight up, this isn't going to take away your favorite campsite. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just going to throw it out there. They're putting this on the east side of the park, which is low usage to start with. They're putting it in a tent-only camping area, about as far south as they can possibly go. And the well is going to only be about, I don't know, I think my memory serves, it's like 3 feet by 3 feet, and at the most, with any of the concrete or work that's going to get done around, it's going to be 6 by 6.
Yeah.
And it's going to be capped. It's going to get used once a year, and it is a monitoring well.
Yeah.
Now I don't remember how deep it is going, and I think that's because
5,000 feet.
Yeah, it's a long way. It's going down into the Arbuckles.
Maybe more than that.
Yeah, it's going into the Arbuckles, and they are going to be monitoring. You know, because there's multiple levels here, but you know, at the end of the day, what this is really about is, you know, I remember it was 5-6 years ago. All of a sudden, we just started having a bunch of earthquakes around here. And everybody was going, I wonder what's causing that. Well, they think they know, and part of it is pressure in what's called the Arbuckle layer, and there's a geological layer. Now, I'm not going to talk much higher level than this because I don't know. No, if you really want the high level stuff, go back and watch the county commission.
And I'm telling you what,
that dude was on it.
He and I even went out after the meeting and thanked him. Because the truth of the matter is as I sat there from the beginning of their presentation until the end, I couldn't even tell you how much was learned by sitting there and listening to that gentleman like I was in school in a geology class, soaking up what this professor had to say.
You felt smarter afterwards, didn't you?
And you could tell in every single way, shape, and form that this person is at the top of their academic prowess. I mean, they went through and talked about how many there are, and some go into one place and another. I mean, all over western Kansas. This is nothing new. It just so happens that our region did not have any place before they decided to request to the county to put this here at West Park for us to be able to capture, and us as a society, as the state of Kansas residents, as the academics that do this research, the kind of information that they needed.
And they didn't have anything in Harvey County.
Yeah.
I'm pretty close to his words. They wanted some data that wasn't 45 minutes away for us.
Yep.
And this was the place to do it. Now, one of the reasons that this is really the place to do it is that by going into government-owned property, make no mistake, Harvey County is a government.
Yeah.
Going into a government-owned property, they figure that there probably won't be ownership issues over the course of the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that you can do, this is not going to be cheap for the people paying for it.
Yeah. $400,000.
By the way, Harvey County ain't paying any.
Not a dime.
Not a dime, and they're not paying any of the maintenance, nothing.
Yes.
So for the guys that are paying that, the worst thing that could happen is you get the project done, you've got the well drilled, you're ready to start, and all of a sudden that property's sold.
Yeah.
Now you've got to either negotiate with a new owner or pull it out, cap it off.
And that's not an option because they want to get like 50. They said that they can get like 50, 60 years of data out of it. And we get to be the place that happens. I mean, is there no pride in that? To me, I was proud. I mean, I had a proud moment, Chad, where I was like, hey, it's nice that they're picking Harvey County. It's nice that they're picking where they're picking and that they went through and they did what they did, because they even went down to think about it from the perspective of Cass, I think is his name, said that it is a no maintenance area. It butts right up against the so they even went through and said, okay, let's consider whether there's going to even be a penny more spent for maintenance in and around this thing. And the answer is no.
So, when I first read through the documentation and the request and all of that, I sat down and I said, okay, what questions would I have or should I have right here? Well, number one, is it going to affect usage of the park?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. Because of where it's being put, it's not. Well, what liability is the county going to have? None. And as I went through, I mean, it's like every one of these questions.
What does it cost the county?
What about the next time it floods? Is there going to be a problem when you read through the documentation? No.
Nope.
So I'm sitting here going, okay, well, honestly, this thing sounds almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
And then I get to the whys. Well, we're trying to figure out why we're having earthquakes. Okay? Is it actually from fracking wells like everybody seems to think it is, or is it for something else? Yeah. Are they going to affect water quality anywhere? I mean, they're drilling a long ways. Actually, no. So, you just, when you went through, I just went through every one of those things. And at the end of it, honestly, I sat there and I said, the people who came up with this and are wanting to do this, they're a heck of a lot smarter than I am.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
yeah. Hey, I tell you, in those situations, Chad,
in this particular case, it really comes down to they're much more educated than I am on this. And so here we go. Yeah. So there's not a bad side to it, but yes, the county commission did approve that, and that is going to move forward. Now, during construction, they're going to use a bigger area than 6x6.
Yeah, and they even thought through that too.
Yeah,
when they were going to do it, how and what events are big time events. There was a question, I believe, that was posed about the Trappers Rendezvous. Right. No, it's not going to happen at that time. It's going to happen at a time when, unless you want to go and freeze to death while camping, which that's what the Trappers Rendezvous tries to do.
Is.
But given the fact that that's not normal and they're not going to be doing it when this is happening, I mean, they even went through and thought about it from that perspective too.
Right.
I mean, this is very.
There was some high level thinking going on.
They did it.
And we've seen some, when it comes to construction projects, we've seen some high level thinking going on repeatedly that has gone completely unnoticed. One of them involved the car show.
Yeah.
They're going to start construction, real construction, on K15 Main between 4th Street and 11th Street next week.
Yeah.
And the reason they're starting next week, they actually took a break on if you want to call it construction, because they came in and they started with all the ADA ramps on the sidewalks,
which are wonderful.
Yes. And when they started that project, the statement was made, you will be done by May 6th. You will not have construction on May 6th, period. And this will be done. And the construction company was like, all right, we got this.
Yeah.
And you will not start all the major work until after May 6th.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because we've got a car show downtown that this would totally destroy. Yeah. And
20-year anniversary of the old
well,
office.
yeah. And fresh in people's minds during the entirety of that was what happened to the Harvey County Fair Parade.
Yeah.
And that particular construction project was honestly supposed to be done, or pretty much done, before the county fair came along. But there were so many delays on that project. By the way, we have a different contractor on this one than we did on that one.
Yeah.
So we've seen some high level thinking going on, and some, it's like, this is the way things need to be. There's kind of a reversal, because at one time, the contractors had more control. People were just happy to find somebody to do the job.
Yeah.
But things have been getting more competitive. So, and all of that is a good thing.
Yeah, especially when it comes to government projects and stuff. Yeah. Right now, with the economy, inflation, and all these things, and percentage rates and all this, it's a good time. And it's strange to say this, but my education teaches me that right now is a good time for municipalities and government agencies to invest in doing infrastructure projects because of various financial reasons. So that's neither here nor there, but speaking of that, I know I'm getting here, Chad, but I just want to speak directly to people right now and say that I know that this is going to inconvenience some things for people. It is going to mess up traffic downtown. It is going to be an inconvenience. I mean, I can't think of a construction zone that I've ever come across and said, yes, it's construction. I get to sit here by the flag guy as he pushes me forward and stops me. And, that 2-lane down to 1-lane traffic for 4 miles on Highway 50 just is not fun for anybody.
And people have died in that.
I know. And well, there you go. Put a cryptic message on top of it all, Chad. I mean, come on now. Nobody, hopefully nobody is hurt in the downtown K15 infrastructure road improvements.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that, just take a second, folks, and just realize that this inconvenience is not forever. It's not forever. And then when we go through our few months of inconvenience, that we're going to be truly benefited for years and years and years because of this. And it's almost like and I'm not saying anything negative to anybody directly. I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm trying to be pro-positive, but it just needs to be said that don't mistake the forest for the trees, right? Don't get to the point where, because right now your moment of inconvenience, you're unable to see the benefits of the next 10, 20 years of not being inconvenienced by this, and that we will have a better Main Street because of it. I mean, there's so many things that are going on. The road improvements are going in. Right now, there's all kinds of grant funding that people was able to get for the downtown revitalization. I mean, the historic preservation. I mean, there is so much happening right now in Newton. There's so much happening in Harvey County that we have so much to be blessed for. Let's not derail the train because we're all about I. Me.
Well, we got something else coming up that I think is going to be super cool. Tuesday night is when the city commission is going to discuss whether or not to pursue a grant.
Okay.
Honestly, this should be a slam dunk. I don't say things like this often. This needs to be a 5-0 vote. Doesn't really need to be a whole lot of conversation on it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the project that I'm referring to, I'm got a story that's going to run Saturday about this, right? So there's a grant application that they're wanting to file, and they need to commission approval to do it. It's for $3.8 million. I say that again, $3.8 million.
A grant.
So this is obviously a project that's big enough that the city is looking at this going, yeah, I don't think we can do this on our own. Okay? And probably 90% of that is politically.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But that project is to extend I call it the Sand Creek Trail. It's also been known as the Trail of Two Cities, the bike and walking path. I mean, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? They want to go from the Sand Creek Dam, which if you don't know where that is, it's just south of Athletic Park.
Yeah.
To the east of where the carnival area is for the fair. Okay, so the dam. So they want to go from the dam south all the way to southwest 14th.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That's going to require a couple of rail crossings. The plan is to go underneath the railroad, much like they did up by Centennial Park. The K&O up there has a trestle, and the path goes underneath it. It's super cool. If you've never been through it.
Sand Creek's got one too. Sand Creek Golf Course has one. Yeah.
Yes. So they're planning to go underneath. They don't have full permission from the BNSF yet. That comes after they can figure out if they can get the money or not.
Yeah.
But if they're able to accomplish that trail now would go all the way from Sand Creek Station all the way up to North Newton.
Yeah.
And through North Newton. I mean, you could get from Kaufman Museum. Heck, you can get all the way up to the intersection of K15 and I-135.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Yeah.
All the way down to Sand Creek Station.
And all little kind of places in between, because, if you're talking about like, well, I can hop off the path and go to Athletic Park, right? I can go walk around Athletic Park or do Athletic Park, hop back on the trail and keep going. If you're out there where we're talking about in North Newton, well, there's Bethel Trails out there.
Yep.
You can just hop right off and do Bethel Trails.
I mean, you can. There's a lot of things that you'll be able to get to using that path.
Yeah.
Right?
Everything.
Including, it's going to come really close to the Rhodes Park down there on Southwest, the newest park we have on Southwest 14. Because that's one of the questions I asked. How close is it?
Yeah.
And it's pretty close.
Yeah.
We for pedestrians, guys like me, I love to walk.
Same with me.
I love to run.
Yes. That's my
those
pastime.
are the things I like to do. That infrastructure is always had that big hole in it, right? Mm-hmm. You can get over to like using either First Street or the Railroad Park extension. You can get over towards Maine, and you can head south on Maine, and you can get down. You can get down to the hospital if you want to.
Yep.
There's
Walmart's, the whole thing.
Yeah, and you can get to Walmart's kind of, I mean, you got to cross over K15.
Yeah.
As a pedestrian, that ain't easy.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. But, you want to go to the cafeteria at the hospital for lunch, and by the way, they actually do serve good lunch there.
Yes, they do.
yeah, you can do those things if you want to take the time and energy and do it as a pedestrian. This is just expanding all of those capabilities.
Well, and that makes Newton, for those that don't know, when you're looking at potential places to reside and you're looking to make your community attractive, the fact that your community focuses on healthy lifestyles, healthy living, is good for the mental health of people in the community. It's good for the physical health of people in the community. It's good for your youth. It's good for your elderly. It's good for everybody in between to be able to have something like that. I mean, when you think about how many communities offer that, in our little geographical area, no, not so much.
Well, and that was a part of the conversation. That pedestrian infrastructure was a part of the conversation about the placement of our new library.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no coincidence that it ended up in Military Park. During some of those very, very, very first meetings, statements were getting made like, I get it, there'll be no place that you can go, that everybody can go and walk or bike. There's no place that you can go where every kid can walk or bike. You just can't. That, however, is not an excuse to place something where no one can.
That's right.
And so, that statement right there eliminated, I think, like half of the initial sites that they were talking about. And, I mean, you only showed up with about 6, and 3 of them are gone.
Yeah.
Because people are looking at them going, no, there's no infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists or anything to get there. There's no way we want that.
Yeah.
And then we ended up, I mean, they actually investigated the purchase of a piece of property that is a liquor store now. And it proved to just be too small for what they wanted to do. But it was right on the path.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, let's do this, and there were a significant number of people in the room during those sessions who believe that path is like the number one amenity that this city has.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not into ranking amenities, but I'm going to tell you that personally, it would be in my top 3, and it may even be my favorite.
Agreed.
Right?
Because of what we enjoy, Chad.
Well, yes. I mean, think about it. You can get into Centennial Park.
I know.
So, we can circle back to Newton Rebels. You can ride, depending on where you live in this town, you can ride your freaking bike to Centennial Park.
Yes.
Without getting on a street.
Yep.
Okay? I mean,
yeah.
And definitely not having to go down Main Street.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's too many pedestrian car incidents on the bike path, huh? I mean, there's not. It's okay. But speaking of cars, pedestrians, infrastructure improvements, road developments, and we don't have a lot of time. We got some time, but something that went gangbusters, and I don't know if it was just because the first initial plan was one that nobody really liked. I even have my own personal opinions about it, which I'll refrain from giving. I think everybody spoke things that I would agree with, so it would be redundant to say the same thing. But their first planning meeting with KDOT about what they were going to do with the Highway 50 interchange that right now normally spills off into Meridian is looking a little bit different. And from what I understand, that did not fly or go over very well with too many people.
It went over about as well as a fart in church, man.
I was going to say, I can't believe you used that because I was going to say the same thing. But
I got to have got to get one colloquialism in there, right?
Man.
No, so, there's so many different directions I can go here. First and foremost, some of us in this community, this is not the first time we've seen something like this. Yeah. Some of us saw something like this about 15 years ago. There was some talk of a possible ethanol plant being placed on Cow Palace Road down by the transfer station. And that was going to lead to a massive increase in truck traffic had it come to fruition. Mm-hmm. Just massive. So we saw something very, very, very similar to this during that time span. So it's not, I mean, that just, all that really says is it's not, for some people, unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
Those plans all those years ago never reached a point of any public meeting or comments. That be to say, this one has reached that point, and that's where we are. Okay, this is not a done deal. This is KDOT saying, we're thinking about this.
Yeah.
What do you think? And, it's KDOT is one of those organizations. Yes, they've got a timeline on this, but because of the kind of money we're talking about, $74 million, which, by the way, will not be paid out of local tax funds.
Yeah.
So the city is not paying out of this. The county is not paying onto this. This is strictly coming from Kansas Department of Transportation. Okay? So some of that property tax that's collected up in Johnson County and income tax and whatever else collected up in Johnson County, it's coming here for that.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's just straight up. And there are people upset because multiple reasons. Number one, people hate change.
Yeah.
Number two, we've got Lenny Wild's house and business right in the target zone.
Yeah.
He don't want to move. I don't blame him. He moved that house in there. He spent 30 years improving that house. All the trees around that house he planted. I get it, man. I wouldn't want to move either. His business is right in the zone. Pluswood, right in the middle of that. Jim's Motor is right in the middle of that. There's a possibility that it could take a little bit of property from Full Vision, which just started this year on a multi-million-dollar expansion.
Yeah.
It's too early to really say who's safe and who's not safe, but by the appearances of everything, it looks like that building that they're expanding is going to be fine. There's a little concern. I would be a little concerned about the building that they have that's across Full Vision Drive, where they're doing treadmills and warehousing. And then you've got a building a little to the east that's not theirs, that somebody else is in. Lazy Creek Bar 6, that's somebody that might be a little bit affected by this, but we're not sure exactly how much. And by the way, for those that don't know, that is an operating horse farm.
Yeah.
In the city limits.
Yeah.
Go back and watch a conversation you and I had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we got there's people around there that are going to be affected by this.
Yes.
Still unclear, again, because this is simply the proposal stage. This is simply KDOT saying, we're thinking about this. We want to know what you think.
There's other options too, right? This is not the
they
only
have
option.
two. Okay. Well, they presented two.
Okay.
Both of them have that effect.
Okay.
With those businesses and homes. Both of them do. Because it's moving the intersection from Meridian to Cow Palace Road.
Well, see, my big thing is I don't think that, and I don't know the logistics on it, right? But I think that it's a negative to be moving that intersection from Meridian for all of the access that's created there.
The difficulty they have.
Being the only place that you can bypass the train, and there's a lot to that.
So the difficulty that they're having as they work on this design and what they're going to do is, one thing we know has to happen is those bridges that are on the plan. The current bridge is 2 lanes. They're wanting to replace it with 2 bridges and maintain a 4-lane highway through there.
Yeah.
Okay, and people have died there.
Oh, it's
with all of these, with all those transitions.
I tell you what, yeah.
Okay, so we know that's going to happen, and that has to happen, and the bridges have reached their end of their useful lives, so that it's going to happen. Sorry, I mean, it's just that part is definitely going to happen. The difficulty that they have here is acceleration and deceleration lanes for US 50, which is going to be a 65 mile an hour 4-lane road.
Yeah.
Federal requirements are now 1,000 foot for those lanes.
Yeah, so no longer that 20 foot. You got to be going 25 miles on the loop and then make it to 65 as fast as you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is a serious problem when you're trying to design this whole thing, which is probably the number one. And I'm not trying to speak for anyone. I'm just saying my opinion is that was probably one of the number one factors that caused anybody to go, well, you know what? We got this road right here. Maybe we should design something for this.
Yeah.
Okay? And the design looks freakishly like the intersection we have at K15/Main Street.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. K15, as far as US 50 is concerned, works pretty well.
Yeah.
So all of those things kind of led to the design that they put out there. Here's the important thing to do. And I don't care if you love it or hate it, but the comment period on the KDOT website is open through the 15th. So please get there. And I've put multiple stories on our website. I've got another one going. I'm trying to put as many into our quote free area as we can that highlights that website and the link. And the link that I publish is directly to the survey. You've just got to go and comment.
Yeah.
Okay? I've put my comments in. Okay? And my personal comments. I've put them in there. I'm not in love with this design. Not at all. Okay? But I also kind of understand how they came about, where they came from. And oh, by the way, not the first time I've seen something like this. It's the first time I've seen KDOT put one out. Others put the other ones out.
Yeah.
So, you know, the one of the things that I'm not in love with, so I said there were two. One proposal has an extension of Meridian that goes south through the bridges and then westward to connect with the Cow Palace intersection.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
One does not.
Okay.
The one that does not have that has an extension of Sharps Drive over to Cow Palace, and this is north of US 50. Cow Palace, north of US 50, is currently unimproved. And the improvement of Cow Palace all the way to the north to the Sharps Drive. KDOT is going to, under that plan, KDOT would pay for all of that. The one that has the extension of Meridian, KDOT will not pay for the extension of Sharps Drive to Cow Palace.
Okay.
And they're not overly excited about the city moving that whole thing further south and just extending something like a frontage road over to Cow Palace.
Yeah.
They don't really want to have a city street intersecting with any of this. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? That's not your call.
Right.
That's Rod Kry's call.
Yeah. Yeah, but then that goes back to taxes. Who wants to pay for that?
Well, exactly. Because if the city's going to have to pay for those roads, then the city should doggone well be able to decide where they're going to be.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Period.
But that'll be the next. I mean, you know, it goes back to the public opinion, like you're saying. Yes, please get on there and be able to express what you believe or how you feel about X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, this is going to happen. I mean, there's no stopping
something
this
is
from
going
happening.
to happen.
Yes, so
something is going to happen. The question is, what is going to happen?
right. So you can have your input. A person can have their input. People can say what they want, but know that one way or the other, this is going to be a change that's going to happen. It's for the better or the improvement. And then, I don't know, I go back to full circle now that we're coming to the end of the program, and I think I can just tie all this into my final word. And it's that, you know, it really appears, and and I know I've been there before to say things that some might say is negative. That it's I'm not pro positive all the time. I'm a positive guy, Chad, but I've been critical of decisions that have been made or things that have happened, or there's nothing wrong with that. I actually encourage this from people, but I guess my last word is this. We in our community need to really start self-checking, and we need to start saying, instead of this being I, me all the time, it needs to be about us. I'm not going to say that Newton lacks in unity. I'm not going to say that Harvey County lacks in unity. But what I am going to say is we could even have thrown in the 440 school bond, which I think we'll just wait until that's whether decided, yay or nay, to talk about it in the following program. But, just because you don't use the bike path does not mean people don't use the bike path. Just because you might be somebody that doesn't agree with your neighbor about what decisions should be made one way or the other does not mean that in the end you can't walk away understanding that the other person has a different perspective and that you can remain neighbors and friends. In this politically saturated, heightened environment in which we find ourselves living today, where people will ostracize one another, break friendship with one another, they will do whatever they can to get at somebody that they just don't agree with politically on one issue or another, and we've seen it time and time again. Take a step back. Take a step back from yourself and realize that you are part of a community, that we need to be pro-community, that we need to support things that are happening in our community. We don't need to have the kind of negativity that we see pervasively encroaching upon anything that somebody is trying to do different or more positive. Take a second, take a step back, and realize that you are a part of the greater community. It's not just about you, and not just about what you want, and not just about what you believe, but what is good for us all. That's my final word. And Chad, it's your turn to speak directly to the hearts and minds of everybody listening and give the final word this week. What do you got for everybody?
Final word from Chad this week is say hello to the Rez family downtown. Narciso's 92. He's owned El Toro for 61 years. During that time, he also ran a construction company. You see the stamps of Larez and Sons all along the Sand Creek Trail. That's because he's the guy who built it. And the dude is 92. It's time for him to retire. He's got his restaurant up for sale. His desire is to sell it. So, go say hi. And if you don't want to buy it, make sure you sit down and get a burrito because the time is running out on El Toro as far as, being able to dine in that restaurant and get his family's cooking. Yeah. So, that dude has done a lot around here that just never went recognized. There's been 4 generations of that family that has worked in that restaurant during the last 61 years. Wow. So I'm planning to have a burrito here pretty quick. Not today, but pretty quick. And really enjoyed hanging out over there for a while to write the story that I wrote here about a week and a half ago. But, that's my final word.
All right.
Go see the Rez family at El Toro.
People that served humbly.
Yes.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks, and we'll catch you next week.